Shalom to Prime Minister Binyamin Netanyahu.
Shalom.
So elections are in 2 days, and it does seem that your position is at risk.
Not only my position, the position of the national camp. The possibility is that if we don't close the gap between Labour and Likud, then Bougie and Tzipi Livni will form a government, a left government, backed by the Arabs, that will retreat along all fronts. They'll go back to the 67 lines, they'll divide Jerusalem, they'll agree to this horrendous deal that is being hatched up that will enable Iran to go to the bomb. I think there's a real danger for the state of Israel, the land of Israel, and I call on everyone in the national camp and English-speaking Israeli voters, go to the polls and vote for the one party that will change it, and that's Likud, Machal.
How do you explain this? I mean, it's just a known fact, or it was a known fact, that the public is more right-wing. What's happening? What are we seeing? This campaign of everyone but Bibi?
It's that campaign of the media, which is unprecedented. Most of the media is completely mobilized for that. But also enormous infusion of cash from abroad with the support of governments that understand that the way to bring the left up is to bring the Likud and me down. And what they're trying to do is form a gap in the number of seats that Likud gets compared to Labour, and then say, all right, then Bougie Herzog and Tzipi Livni are the ones who are going to be entrusted by the president to form the government. And therefore, I don't think anyone in the national camp has any privilege or any luxury now of voting for another party, because we've got to close the gap with the Likud. Once you vote for another party, the left doesn't care, because you're bringing down the number of mandates of the Likud and increasing that gap. I say to all the national camp voters, give the mandate to Likud to close the gap. And you know, Jewish Home, for example, will be a part of my government in a senior position no matter what happens. It doesn't make a difference if they go up or down by 2 or 3 seats, but it makes a huge difference if the Likud goes down by 2 or 3 seats, because that can give the government to the left with Bougie and Tzipi and the Arabs.
One of the claims of the left is that you harmed Israel's relations with the world, and the peak, of course, is the address of the Congress with President Obama not really approving or not really liking that address to the Congress.
I think quite the opposite happened. I think in the wake of the address, there were public opinion polls that showed that over 70% of the American people agreed with my position that this deal will not stop Iran from achieving nuclear weapons. And there's a majority in Congress that agrees with that. So it's my job as Prime Minister of Israel to stand for the land of Israel, the people of Israel, the state of Israel, even when we have disagreements with the President of the United States. I mean, I'm trying to think of a situation where a Prime Minister of Israel like Bougie or Tzipi don't say that, don't stand up. Their idea of diplomacy is submission, is capitulation. Whatever the outside pressures are, we have to submit to them.
They'll be better friends with President Obama.
Well, you know, you have to stand up. Prime Minister of Israel has to stand up for the state of Israel. That's what I've been doing, I think with great force, because that's what we have to do to assure the continuation of the Jewish people in their land. After we were tossed out of here for 2,000 years, we come back, we have to stand up for Israel. And I do that.
You mentioned the nationalist
Tzipi
camp.
and Bougie will know.
You mentioned the nationalist camp, and even on the right there are mixed feelings about the fact that you declared support in Palestinian state, about the freeze of construction in Judea and Samaria.
Well, it's a fact that under enormous pressures that no other government has ever sustained, I've been able to continue building, and we built thousands of units. And the issue right now is not the additional units, it's the existing units. Because if Tzipi and Bougie come to power, the left comes to power, they'll retreat along every front, and they'll bring down the existing settlement community. That's the thing that has to be understood. We've kept the line, we've added units.
The two-state solution?
I think that was said at a time when the Middle East was in a different place, and even then I said they have to recognize the Jewish state, and we have to have demilitarization and security arrangements and many other things that the Palestinians never accepted. But right now, I said, the Middle East has changed. We've got the Arab Spring, which is really an Islamic winter Islamist winter that is sweeping the entire area. And any territory that we give up is taken immediately by the forces of militant Islam, who use it to bombard our territories with thousands of rockets. So I'm just not going to do it. That's why the international left and the local left, they're not stupid. They know that I do not concede. They know that I stand our ground. They know that they have to knock me and the Likud out. That's why their campaign is Aklo Bibi, not Bibi, anyone but Bibi. Because they know that if they bring down the Likud mandates, and they don't care if it goes to other parties, even in the nationalist camp, they don't care. They know that at that point, Tzipi and Bougie will be given the task of forming the government. They know that at that point they'll win. So what they know, we should know. What they want to do the opposite. Vote Machal, close the gap.
One other question about the release of murderers. Would you define that as something, as a mistake, as something you regret? We saw the gestures to the PA.
Look, it was a very tough choice. It was meant also to continue the construction. It was also, in one case, also involved getting back a kidnapped soldier. These are very tough decisions, but I think they belong to the past. I don't think that's going to
They won't happen again?
No.
Another question about the Temple Mount. How do you see the fact that we're seeing restrictions there? Jews cannot pray in the holiest site for the Jewish people.
This is the status quo that's been there since the Six-Day War. I wouldn't suggest changing it now for a simple reason. We could ignite a great religious war against 1 billion Muslims. And I stand up for Israel. Temple Mount is very dear to me. I've done many things to ensure our connection to it and our sovereignty. But I wouldn't change the status quo and create a religious war. You have to be careful there. And I'm careful. I'm responsible. I'm an ardent Jewish patriot. I'm a Zionist. I'm a proud Jew. But I also have the responsibility as Prime Minister to do the right thing for the State of Israel and the continuation of the Jewish people. I do that sometimes when it's not easy.
We started talking about the beginning about your fight against the media, the battle of the media against you, anyone but Netanyahu. Isn't there times where you just say, you know what, enough already, this is too difficult on the personal level?
And then what would happen? We say, I told you so when it happens? Is that what I'll have the personal satisfaction of having an easier life, but the life of my nation, the life of my country,
so what pushes
the future of my homeland would be in doubt? Because I think about our collective future, because I think about our history, because I think about the responsibility of making sure that the chain of Jewish existence is not broken, I can sustain the pain, but I need your help. I need the help of the nationalist camp voters who understand that we're fighting for the Jewish future here.
You know, in Pesach we say, Man ishtana laila hazeh. So about the next term, if you get into office, how will this term be different than the previous?
I think we have, if we have enough votes, we can have a nationalist government that is stable and not a divided government in which the likes of Tzipi and Lapid undermine our positions. We need a unified nationalist government that begins with a Likud victory.
Prime Minister Binyamin Netanyahu, thank you very much.
Thank you.